Right, so week 2 of the Still Life project, and I thought this week I'll just do a little bit of a recap on some of the drawing things and just take it a stage further, and then a little bit of painting. So I'm going to use this as a setup because I thought it'd be quite nice to maybe have a go. I'll probably just demonstrate painting perhaps some of the food this week, but another week things like glass and shiny things are quite interesting to paint. Just want to do a quick recap on some of the measuring from last week. So what I did last week was I did a demo of measuring and using a very direct method. So the way to do that is I have something to measure with, like a pencil to measure with, and something to draw with. So if I was going to draw the bottle, I could measure, basically close one eye and line up top of my pencil with one side of the bottle and just adjust my thumb until I can see the other side of the bottle. So if I did that, I can then transfer that on, and that comes out about that wide. So that's like a very direct method of measuring. The only problem with that is, if I drew that, then probably the bottle's going to come out about that size, and it's going to be a bit small for my painting. So I find that a more useful way of measuring is to pick something. Say I used the width of the bottle, and just use that like as a unit of measurement. So I might decide that actually I want the bottle to be probably about that, perhaps about that wide, a bit wider already. So that's about the size I want the bottle to come out. So if I measure that, I could compare the width maybe with the height, and that fits in about twice. So basically I'm just doing that measurement, holding that, and then lining up the bottom of the bottle, and then seeing where the top of the bottle lands up, and then going back to that position. It's just over twice high the width. So what I can do is come back to this. So that's what I decided I was going to start with. I think I'll make the bottom about here, and I'll measure that twice, and that takes me up to just here, just up to the rim of the bottle. And then I could then use that same measurement and then compare, say, the width of the jug, or what size the orange is compared to the width of the bottle. Basically, you have something that you compare everything else to. So that's basically how I go about drawing when I go out painting. Yesterday I was painting these, so I was basically picking one building and then comparing everything else to the size of that building. So I had a big white painting and just using one little building, then just how many times that building fit into other things, really. So that's more often than not how I use measurement, but it is a really useful skill, particularly in doing this direct sort of drawing. And yeah, I still use it a lot. Alright, so if I was going to draw that can be the sides, that can come down to there. Actually, I'll bring that forward a little bit. No, I won't have it there. And then so once I'm there, what I did do then was basically just halve that, just so that I make sure that the neck of the bottle is symmetrical with the rest of the bottle. And then I did this little thing of drawing across, so you can see that there, it's a bit like that, do a big version. So you make sure that these two bits are the same width, and then that the same. So this is a nice way of getting a nice ellipse shape. So you draw across first, and then you get this kind of tighter radius in first, and then broaden it out. So that's a nice way of going. Say that was the top of the jug, something like that. But just do that on a small scale here. That gets me the top of the cork, work my way down to the neck of the bottle. And then need another one there. And that's the same width. Now really just getting the shoulders on that bottle. So next week I'll do a little bit of painting glass. It's always quite interesting painting things that are transparent or painting things that are reflective. And that'll be a bit of both. So I'll use that there. But in terms of the this. So I now need to check the width of the bottle against the size of the orange. Just check that again. I think it's just slightly bigger, and I'd say it starts about there. So that's there. Just make that a tiny bit bigger, and it's a little bit lower, so I can drop that into shape. What can also be useful if you're drawing still lifes is to use like a viewfinder, and that way you can see what the whole thing would look like, see how much space you want around the object. This one I've divided that into quarters, so I can see that, say I want in terms of this one, I want the bottle in this kind of left-hand side. So that's quite a useful technique as well. Some of you have been out, drawing outside with me, and these are all techniques that are really useful when we're working outdoors. So that can be the orange shape. It's slightly squash shape. And then I use a little bit of paint. So this week I'll use acrylics. Another week maybe I'll use oils or watercolours. I think with this project, just use whatever you fancy using. This background, a bit of cloth. With things like still lifes, I tend to do background to foreground. So normally I perhaps paint whatever's behind it first. In this case, because I want to just use the simpler objects, I'll just paint a little bit around here. So got a cerulean blue, which is a nice greeny blue. And I'll pop some of that on and maybe adjust it. It's a little bit dark actually, that. I'll add some white to that, just lighten it a little bit. We've got quite a lot of light coming down that's reflecting on the blue, sort of light on the blue, a bit of browns mixing there. This particular cloth has got a little bit of a texture, which I might just try and indicate in a minute. Underneath the orange, there's a little shadow, so I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue and maybe a tiny bit of red, just something to, maybe not red, maybe yellow would be better. Yeah, just make it slightly greener and darker. Just under here, a bit of shadow. So get those darker shadows in. That'll help to give the impression of it sitting on a surface. Just go back to the lighter blue. Work that in the rest. While it's still wet, you can blend the colours a little bit. And just want to lighten that up a little bit, just to break it up. Maybe a tiny bit more yellow. Gives the impression of some of the textures in the cloth. So a little bit of background, and then the orange itself, which goes with a different brush. On it. I've got a mixture of, this is cadmium orange, so it's a nice strong orange anyway. And then add some yellow to that, some cadmium yellow. That. That's the lighter bit. And then need to get the shadows. Underneath here there's quite a bit of shadow. So I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber. So this particular burnt umber I've got is quite a reddy brown. Try a bit of that, and maybe a little bit of red. Here. And what you find is if you half close your eyes, just squint a little bit, that will help you to see some of the areas that are going into shadow. And just gently blend that in with the orange that's there. Pick some of that, pop that back in. Maybe that's a bit too much, I'll add a bit more orange to it. That's it. So hopefully that could read as an orange. There's one little bit of highlight here, and it's not very bright, but it's a little bit lighter, where it's almost like it's reflecting a particular light. So again, make a very, very pale orange. So some white added here. So this is the first bit I've added any white to the orange mix. Just a little bit of, yeah, I think that's going to be enough to get that to read as an orange. I've missed a few bits, so I could have done with going over those. The only other bit I can also see is where the orange actually meets the cloth. There's a really dark, almost like a dark line. So I just make a dark shadowy line there. So just there, and then it very quickly lightens up from there. But yeah. So next week we'll carry on with this and just add some of the other objects in. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite some people ask me, how do you get the texture and things like that. But I don't think it's that necessary. If you want to be a photorealist, you could get a little bit of orange peel texture. But I quite like a sort of general impression. I like to keep a little bit of liveliness to the brushwork, and hopefully that suggests enough. And then the rest you use imagine. Any questions? How do you get the composition?
Because that doesn't look like that what it is now, does it?
Well, this doesn't. Well, I think once you get the other objects in.
Is it because you're looking down and you can see that the jug is not there? It's further.
Oh, do you mean the drawing? The shape of it?
Yeah. You have to put certain things for certain things to get a composition.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like a composition. We've got
It's got.
the apple behind the back.
Yeah, I quite wanted the apple behind the jug. I wanted it sort of half behind the bottle, so that you can see the distortion. It kind of makes it. I mean, really, composition you just got to keep playing around or something. Like a good composition.
Right, when I've done this one here, I do want to add it to it, scroll composition on it.
Yeah, you just got to keep trying things out and see what works. There's quite a lot to think about, like scale, different scales. I think they've got some bigger objects and little objects, but not too different in scale. So, there's quite a lot you can look at. I think I quite like it as a composition, but not to overdo space for it.
No.